Hello, team. We have another line war cast. This time it's between Afina, who is in blue, and Orbnet, who is in red here. Um, we can see that both players have tried to pick the middle, so neither are allowed to at this point. I'm not sure where Afina's about to go, but we're on the okay, bottom right. Afina's going bottom right, and they are in blue. This is the first time we've casted on Seed 9, which for those who are unaware, which is chill, is that Seed 9 seems to be a kind of, not to use the word standard map to pick for the community, but I feel like it's a map that a decent amount of folks have played on. So I saw this in the replay list, and I know I had not cast it. I really wanted to. Or Afina is going for a quick airfield starting in the bottom right, and then Orbnet is going for two barracks to kind of cap the north, and an airfield that's right behind it. These two are, I mean, Orbnet is number one on ladder right now. I think Afina is definitely top 40, so both very good players. Orbnet getting two factories behind this, and Afina has a dock on the way, shipyard rather. This is a very good trade route for Afina if they can set that up. The one on the left here is going to be harder to connect, obviously, because Orb will control that. We're going to call it Orbnet Orb, by the way, just throughout most of this game. It's easier. Afina getting two factories, which we know the convergent kind of composition is artillery Sam, a little bit kind of, not always, and at this, like this far up the ladder, both players know the general ways to get around that and the strengths and weaknesses of it. So we'll see kind of like what this develops into. I feel like it's going to be a race to the north because there's two cities up here and there are three oil wells. Oh, there's four oil wells. This one for sure is orbs, it feels like. So it's kind of, and there's a lot of open territory here, so I'm interested to see kind of where both players find the value or think the value is, and where they go. We can see the lines for both players to kind of get an idea of what they're thinking. Afina's lines are okay, so we have commandos. Afina is going for commandos. We can see this big blue retreat line, which I guess Afina must just know that Orb is going to be in the mountains, because I guess they started here, so you can just, yeah, they have to be in the mountains. But still, props to Afina. So they're going to send in commandos, and those things would just be to try to snipe buildings and cause havoc and kind of open up that multitasking game. Both players are starting out with some choppers. These are, in my opinion, pound for pound the best unit. The airport, I believe, is the official name of the building. We know that Orb is a big proponent and enjoys using helicopters, and I think on this map especially, they're so, like, it's just open land, so you can fly these helicopters anywhere. Strikers are also, I think, something that could be used here because both players are going to be within range of each other's production. So if you can just get a bunch of strikers and then you just strike the production all day. Missile boats from Afina. So I'd assume that missile boats are built here to come around the bottom and be able to kind of help, like, as Afina pushes down this coast. I would suspect is the reason that they went for them. There's a gas on the way, so they won't be caught, surprised by running out of gas, which so often happens in, say, like my games. Three factory from Orbnet, so we have three factories, two barracks, and an airfield for Orbnet, and we have, what is this, two factories, a barracks, airport, and one dock from Afina. Orb doesn't have their gas yet. They aren't making a ton of gas units. We can't actually see can we, like, I guess they must have two helicopters by now. Is it only one helicopter? Yeah, one helicopter is already off the airfield. It's kind of weird, that graphical bug of like, well, this makes sense. This is Afina's view, so there's a stealth element to building in the mountains and forests, for that matter, because we can see with Orb's view, this is what the buildings look like in the forest. So maybe I just outed myself that I was so confused as to why we couldn't see the airfield, but it happened. This commando, which we remember was going to go for this long trek, is almost on top of the production. The fun thing I think about commandos is that they're sort of like, if anyone's played StarCraft, they're like Dark Templar, but with even less warning sometimes that stuff's under attack. You kind of have to listen and watch for whether you hear that telltale gun we just heard, or if your production starts showing damage that it's taking and you hear that gun going off. So there's a lot of like awareness multitask that happens when commandos are on the field, and they can be quite deadly if you're not paying attention. These helicopters are going to be able to, well, see it for a second. I don't think it sees it anymore. Maybe. Fog of War is off, so we don't know what Orb is seeing exactly. Clearly they see it now because they're attacking it. Afina's massing some artillery in this position. This is going to be huge. Clearly, I mean, we can already see that this part of the map is about to would be the one to kind of boil over the quickest, because that's the first point of contact. And Afina's backcapping all of this water, which leads to a very good point, which is who has the economic lead. A few minutes into the game, Orbnet is at 584 and Afina is at 536. So very close in that regards. I don't think it's enough to kind of worry about, although I think Orb will be able to capture more of this quickly as opposed to Afina. I don't know, actually. Both players have a decent amount of capping crews in the top here. So we said Artie Sam was a good convergent kind of unit composition, and we're seeing it here. So both players are going to try to. The whole point is keep your artillery safe, and if you can get more of your artillery firing at their artillery, you're going to be able to over time push them forward, or push them back rather. So this becomes the game now of, can Afina position these SAMs in such a way that the helicopters aren't able to take out these artillery pieces? Are they totally on top of that multitask? We see Afina moving the SAMs forward a little bit now. It's a very interesting dance with a relatively high, in my opinion, skill ceiling. These helicopters of Afina are going to get great trades until Orb has some sort of anti-air in the north. And there's no SAMs kind of up here, but you know, really these helicopters are only going to pick off a few units at a time when it comes down to it. There's only 3 of them. I keep looking at this part of the map because it's obviously going to pop off, but we don't know when. Afina has stopped building boats. I think that's the right play. You only need this many boats to capture all the ocean territory in the back, and over time they'll be able to make their way down the coast and see what's up. Which is a great point. Orb is building a dock of their own, and we'll see what they're building in the dock. It's still building, of course. Pardon me. Orbnet has a refinery in the back, and following up with another factory. Another quick economy check. Orbnet at 728 and Afina at 644. So Orbnet is pulling ahead. So maybe it was partly that was a true prediction, and there's more people capping quicker in the north, or rather Orb is just getting through that land more quickly. Not really sure exactly why. The helicopters are so good, we can see. I think we actually subtly missed these helicopters taking out all the artillery of Afina, because I don't know where they are anymore. And apologies, as we cast these games, we'll get better at catching everything, but there's so much that goes on in these games, right? I mean, if you've played this game, you know. It's just so much that you lose track of. The multitask is quite impressive. So props to both of these players. Like, as we can see, like, Afina's managing this commando in the top left. These helicopters flying sorties kind of in the middle to try to cut off all of this northern progression from Orb. Orb setting up SAMs, and now we have a push in the south here. Afina knows that this is a big push and is going to cause some trouble. That's why they're retreating backwards. They're putting down more production. Another factory on the way. I mean, these commandos are kind of just hanging out, which is kind of unfortunate. Contact is being made in the north. Over time, this will not favor Afina. I think if all of these units fought each other, I think Orb would come out on top. And this is a very scary push from Orb. I don't think there's any other way to put it. This has definitely got to be... because this factory might get lost. This artillery piece is dead. We can check the income. Afina's at 704, Orb at 776. It's going to kind of depend on the northern part of the fight, because I think Orb has too much here. There's interceptors for Afina, which is great because they'll be able to, like, it's great in the sense that if you want to get rid of choppers quick, it's SAMs or interceptors. Interceptors do a great job, but because there's so many SAMs of Orb here, you can't really launch the interceptors at them. I think, yeah, both players have the gas to do this. So Afina just didn't launch the interceptors, and I think that's the right call, because there's a gazillion SAMs, and you'll just lose your interceptors immediately. It's going to become a question of, I think Afina will be able to group enough over time that this will be an ugly fight, but they'll be able to take it out. The north, we can kind of quickly check in to see what's happening. You can be the judge on the numbers. I think at anything, it's going to be both players trade out a zillion things, and Orb can reinforce the north quicker, so Orb will come out on top over there. These artillery are now on top of almost the airfield, and I still think this looks not ideal for Afina, especially if these SAMs can start taking out these helicopters. Unfortunately, not all the SAMs are firing fully at them, but Afina lands them. Or rather, they went home. Lost one. That's unfortunate. And this is going to just be so good for Orb on the north here. Yeah, and they're targeting this barracks, which is the right play, I think. You don't, like, buildings are so expensive in the sense that they take a while to set up, and they're expensive anyway. And if you can get rid of them, it is the right play to make, I think. Over time, I believe Afina's going to hold because they've thrown down another few factories on the bottom here. And these are going to be able to, like, immediately reinforce and stop this. And an economy check is what we actually need to focus on here. 872 for Orb and 778 for Afina. And unfortunately, Afina is going for, is forced into going for more production at this point. And instead of developing economically, because we can see, I wonder if Orb has developed any economic positions. Not really, but it's still going well for them in the north. We will keep an eye on this fight because this is clearly where the action's going. I don't think either player is developing economically. And see, over time, I think Afina is going to hold this. It's going to be ugly, but they're going to be able to do it. Yeah, no economic development. I'm sitting here with the dumbest look on my face because I'm trying to decide if this is good for... I think this is good for Afina. Like, even in the south, this is getting cleaned up, and in the north, the reinforcements are now kind of starting to trickle in, because these factories, I mean, this factory's not quite online, but, like, you know, this one finished during this fight, so you now get more artillery pieces on the left side of this. On the southern flank, Afina's going to be able to reinforce with a big group of artillery now that is currently being grouped up. Orb's losing some SAMs, which is always super, super sad. But these helicopters are going to be devastating because Afina has made so much artillery, because the artillery threat of Orbs is so strong. In a lot of ways, if Afina didn't make artillery, they would have been in trouble just on the ground. So it's this balancing act of going SAMs versus artillery. Yeah, we can see that Orb is pushing in the north, and I think this is kind of a breaking point. Orb at 930 income and Afina at 820 or whatever. I don't think it's you know, that's not that much when it comes down to it, but Orb is now being able to invest in more economy with taking these industries in the bottom left. And no town yet, but that will start to give Orb a big economic advantage. And as long as Orb doesn't just blindly push into this forest, which I'd be surprised if they did, I think they're going to be okay. Because Afina does have a lot of production here. Like, they have more production than Orb, technically. Because Afina has, what, this is like going to be 7 factories. Orb has 6, which I know is close. And Orb has more air, but, like, a big blob of artillery, if you don't immediately pay attention to it, it just shows up, and next thing you know, it just snowballs out of control. Orb is getting the whole north. These helicopters are a great call from Afina, but unfortunately Orb does have the SAMs to protect it. And if you really just Orb at this point, if they have a bunch of SAMs in the north and a bunch of SAMs in the south, this is so good for them because they have importantly more economic potential than Afina does. We can see that they are developing all these industries here, and Afina has one potential city, so two potential cities for Afina, but three for Orb, I think, because we can probably safely call this northern one for Orb, and they also have a town on the left side. Afina has a lot of ocean that they've captured, but as we can see, Orb's broken 1k in income, and Afina's at A12. So this will slowly start to spiral, I think. And, you know, as for what Afina could do to get back into this game, I feel like it's kind of tough. Orb's just so good that they're going to be able to just jump on these things and pick away at this point, because there's no real SAM count for Afina either, and there is a decent flock of fighters. This is a great call, scrambling the interceptors from Afina, but it's just like numbers wise, if you only have one interceptor, if your opponent has 8 helicopters, that's like wildly good for them. However many helicopters this is, these two are like flying on top of each other. So this front is actually opening up. I think this favors Afina, but it's going to be so expensive because a lot of these units are going to trade, and because Orb has a better economy, they'll just be able to outproduce it. This interceptor, it looks great when they get great, I guess is a relative term, but like it looks great when they get shot down. It's not great for that interceptor pilot. This one infantry got the short end of the stick on somewhere, because this is not going to work. This is a great front, like, and concave that Afina's made here, which is huge because all your artillery is able to shell, you know, more effectively your opponent. Like, I really like that place, spreading out that front and making sure that that artillery is all firing. But in the north, this is really not going to go well for Afina because they're outnumbered. There is some production coming online now, but I don't think that Afina is going to be able to keep up with the economy, because Afina's at 812 and Orb's now at 1160 because they're developing in the bottom left side of the map. Orb's also getting some air cover on the south just in case, and reclaiming some of this ocean territory, so that's going to be even worse for Afina. And I wonder if Orb, I feel, must know this, and so they're digging in the mountains here because they know the longer this goes on, the better it is for them. They have more of the map, they have more economic development potentially, they have like more income right now, because I believe this standoff actually favors Orb in a sense. I mean, you can be the judge of it. We'll see how this kind of shakes out. But this is not good. I mean, we could look at actually the Navy. Where's the Navy of Afina? So there's 2 boats in the north, and I don't see anything else. So Orb's eventually going to get around and destroy this shipyard and then take all the economy in the sea. And these will become cities over time. We can see that Orb has actually gone for the town on one of the squares and going for the second town here, third town here. So this is just an eco boom. And Orb will pull further and further ahead over time. Yeah, the income is now like 400 apart. I can't do math. It's something close to 400. And this will slowly, I think, deteriorate further. Afina's out of money, as we can see, right? Like, income-wise out of money, and money in the bank out of money, whereas, you know, Orb has a decent amount and a good income. Chipping away at helicopters, if Afina can take even one of these helicopters, I think that's really good. I think you would, yeah. Oh, 2 helicopters? This is a good trade for Afina then. I think I'd be happy to trade 1 SAM for 1 helicopter, let alone, you know, well, 3 helicopters for 1 SAM. But I think it's like a little bit too late. Like, Afina has to do something drastic to get back in this game. the air is taken completely out of the equation by these missile boats. Because unless helicopters go kind of to the north here of this little battle, like this front, they can't go to the south and help on this side because these missile boats will just eat them up. And because Orb has like enough SAMs, which is a full circle of SAMs, it's just like you can't launch anything into this. And we see the numbers here for Orb is just way better. This is a nice full front. This time Orb is getting a lot of the artillery shooting at the same time. Afina's doing a great job too, like it is a concave, but I just don't think over time this is gonna work because Orb's gonna be almost in a point where they can just start putting down more production because they'll start to like get all the economy on their side of the map and it'll just spiral out of control. If these SAMs are able to get in and get rid of these helicopters, and this is exactly what we mean, because imagine if they're on the south of this, they're not going to be able to get anything done. And if they're on the north, if Orb moves the SAMs, then again, they're in trouble. I think that was really good reaction by Afina, because Afina pulled away right as soon as these SAMs started, like, whatever, driving up to get into position. North side of the map, Afina's moving some artillery up here, which is the big bonus that they have, because Orb doesn't yet. But again, 1,300 income for Orb and 824 for Afina. And this is tough. Orb is like number one on the ladder, so like, are we surprised? But I think this is well played by both players, but I don't really see how this. If Afina can start kind of taking some economy in the back, that'd be so big. Like, Orb's already pushed up here and is going to start taking out some infrastructure. Oh, wow. You serious? I feel like that's Afina's reaction. It's just like the luckiest, not the luckiest, but that final missile. This is for sure not going well for Afina. On this front, at least. Like, the north maybe could start working. But if this production for Orb comes online, then it's not like 2 barracks in the north is not going to be able to beat like a factory and airfield and whatever we saw. And Afina has 2 helicopters left. And Orb has a bunch of them, at least 2. Getting a helicopter count is... No, see, we couldn't see it in the mountains. Orb has a full airfield full of helicopters. Which I think you generally would want to move them off the airfield so you can keep making helicopters, but... I mean, I guess technically... Well, here you go. And so Orb's moving them to the north. And this will get rid of this entire threat to the north, because 3 SAMs isn't going to be able to take on all of this. I mean, especially since SAMs can fight SAMs, if need be, you can start just pushing your SAMs into theirs. These 2 helicopters are super clutch for Afina. This is exactly what needs to happen to start chip away at like how bad of a situation this is. Because unfortunately for Orb, their SAMs have been caught a little bit out of position. So what was that, like 3 artillery pieces that these helicopters are able to chip away at? Like, this is enormous. Right? Again, economy-wise though, Orb's at 1340 and Afina's at 860. So it's still just such a huge discrepancy. And Orb's going to be able to mass this over time. We can see that, yeah, these helicopters are just getting everything here. Afina's also out of gas, so unfortunately they won't be able to fly anything of theirs, although, I mean, the 3 helicopters now would be negated because the SAMs are in position. Orb has all the gas that they need, and it started yeah. So remember that group? We didn't really pay attention. We weren't... The multitasking in this game is wild. Props to both players, because we forgot. And when I say we, I just mean I. This refinery, they were able to get it, which is big. And that, as you can see, has grounded everything of Afina's. So Orb is backing up, and that's the play, because they know they have a better economy. this is going to sort itself out in the north, and they're going to be able to capture all of this land. So the longer this game goes on, the better position Orb is in. This is going to... So we have a port for Orb in the bottom, and another port on the total south of the map. And I think they'll be able to get this trade route. This is why they're building 2 ports. And once you get a port, you can start building merchant container ships that drive between the 2 of them. And a fully saturated trade route is like 10 territories. I'm very sure that's the truth. We're saying that's the truth. The amount of SAMs that Orb has up here is wild. SAMs are easily the coolest unit in the game. The way they sound. That's, I mean, personal opinion, of course. But we can go big here, and I think this is... Like, Afina needs to start developing economy to try to catch up, because Orb's at 1,500, and Afina's at 836. But this would be a very oppressive feeling, right? Like, you feel contained, and Orb is just getting such a lead. You know, you have to keep investing and defending yourself and pushing stuff back. It's a tough position to be in. There's only one SAM here. Like, if Orb launched all these helicopters right now on the right, I mean, they would kill the SAM pretty much immediately, right? Because they're following up the strikers on this airfield, which I think is the right play, because you can just start hitting all the production. Yeah, so let's see if I was lying. Let's see if these 4 helicopters can deal with the SAM and then get decent trades. Okay, thank gosh. Because I'm sitting here going like, if they don't, this is not going to be ideal for me. These strikers are also getting involved. This is not ideal for Afina in the north. This is a standoff, but again, the longer this happens for Orb, the better. And one of the things here is that this has turned into such a game where a nuke actually doesn't solve anything. Because sometimes if you're in a position where you can't really break out, you feel contained, you can throw down a nuke, and that's the way you break out. But really, even a nuke here, which is devastating for sure, but then you still have to push into these mountains. And Orb can throw down other production, whatever, and just start grouping to protect themselves. It's a really tough position for Afina. Not to mention they can't do anything with air up here, because there's... How many... What is this, like 14 SAMs or something? Eyeballing it, these helicopters are just continuing to get great trades on the right side. And we can look at the income again. Orbnet at 1,400. Afina at 800. And now... Orb is starting to blockade this. This is exactly the play Afina needs to go for. Is just get behind enemy lines with commandos and start doing some damage. Because look at this economic development of Orb. They're going for... this is a city. They already built this town. So this must be a city. And this is another city. So those are both going to give 10 tiles worth of income. Which is huge. So this is like desperate times call for desperate measures, and I think that's a great play to send those, to try to send those commandos. Orb's just super on top of it though. Like these commandos, although they're getting kind of behind lines, there's no value targets up in the north here, unfortunately for Afina. So none of the trade routes came in handy here. Like, this is such a great amount of missile boats. Because it totally negates any air that Afina can use on this coast. We'll see what the... Okay, so here's the big play. Anytime we hear, like, a big explosion or something, or rocket sounds, I always am afraid that it's a nuke that we're missing. There's been so many of these games where I've missed a nuke. Very sad, but this is the play that Afina is making, is a little bit of the push going down to the left. I'd assume the idea is to try to kind of surround this defensive line, although it might change when Afina sees that like there are so many artillery that are going up to the north. And this is just the economy, right? Because now Orb's able to put down after this, after they've developed all this economy, they can just invest it essentially all into production. And then it's just going to be a straight numbers game. Afina's out of gas, although I think there's only a handful of helicopters that they have. And Orb is on top of seeing where does the opponent not have SAMs, because that's the beauty of air. Is if you can find a position where your opponent doesn't have SAMs, you can do so much damage depending on the type of plane that you have at your disposal. Like up here, great example. Like, you know, every time that a striker goes in and does that, it still is good for you. As long as you don't lose that plane or take like a bunch of damage on it, this is great for you. So part of the art is really just if you can stay on track, keep track of where your opponent's SAMs are or aren't, that's big. We can see that this is it, I believe. Yeah. 764 income for Afina, 1544 for Orb. I think this was well played. Both sides. Orb is absolute top of the ladder. I keep like talking them up. I hope that doesn't, you know, Orb sitting there be like, geez, thanks, now I can't lose to anyone ever. But I guess actually we casted a replay yesterday where they did against Nickname, so I don't know what I'm trying to say with this, but this GG. We said at the beginning of the replay that artillery SAM was the divergent kind of composition, or like convergent composition, and we're seeing it mostly here. Although this is pretty much just artillery. We could, I wonder if a nuke would even help. Say Afina had a nuke here. Where would you put it? And would it even help you? Like maybe you put it right here to try to get just your opponent's stuff. Anyway, GG. Great game on Seed 9. Glad that we picked this for today. Thank you for tuning in and have a great night, evening, day, whatever it is. Enjoy. Peace.